And to talk to us more about energy and indeed financing that sector, we have George Maina. He is the head of tax and a managing partner at Rodland Partners here in Nairobi. It is, of course, a global company, has been a global player in arranging and putting together a lot of energy deals. Karibu sana.
Thank you, thank you.
Now, first off, the fact that Kenya is now able to do such projects, quite a large departure from the past where we were energy inefficient and so many other convoluted things. Where do you think we are today?
Actually, it's a step in the right direction.
Yes.
If you look at it globally, the move is towards renewable energy, renewable sources of energy. And the beauty with the renewable sources is that it's sustainable. Most of Europe has already moved towards that direction. And the only area that is sort of green when it comes to renewable energy is Africa. And that's why you're seeing a lot of investment coming in from Europe, Germany, and most of the European countries. We've seen a lot of interest coming in into this sector.
Well, in your company, Rodland Partners, what exactly is your role in things like this, in projects such as those? What exactly do you do?
What we've done is that we've partnered with investors and governments in many other parts of the world in trying to drive the renewable energy sector. And we come in as consultants to provide the needed support from both a legal and tax framework. We recently, actually the past 3-4 years, through the African Union in Addis, we are running a big project on geothermal power, and that has an impact in Africa and even Ethiopia itself. Yeah, but here in Kenya, what we've seen recently is a lot of interest. For example, Germany is a powerhouse when it comes to renewable energy. So a lot of our clients and potential partners are coming in and they are sourcing and looking for renewable energy opportunities. Also, that is also in line with the government initiatives under the private partnerships arrangements that we have. Government has also gone ahead and created opportunities for public tendering in some of these initiatives, both geothermal and even wind. Now we are seeing wind coming in, and that's where the world has moved to. So we are just catching up with the rest. Yeah.
Part of the challenge for a lot of these projects and indeed potential projects has been twofold. First, arranging financing. The fact that the energy sector tends to be mostly capital intensive and a risky business. And secondly, not knowing where to start, especially when you think about county governments and the fact that someone could just plonk this sort of project at your doorstep and you have no experience, you have no history handling such. Where do you even start?
Yeah, I think the issue when it comes to financing is that, yes, there is financing, but not necessarily from the exchequer. The role of government is to ensure that there is a proper framework to attract investors. Because we have a lot of investors from Europe, the other countries, even China, who are interested in investing in this sector. Already we have a framework for this kind of investment in Kenya. But the main challenge has always been the issue of land. You know, when someone comes in here, he wants to run such a big project like we were looking at Marsabit, the wind project. They would want access to land and ownership. We've seen disputes recently in some of the projects in the country that were starting up. And I think the role of government is to ensure that there is a proper environment to encourage this foreign direct investment, sort out the issue of security, land ownership, ensure that there's, the process itself is competitive in terms of, yes, after now they have come in and brought energy either through wind or even other sources. It is easy to plug into the national power lines so that the investor ultimately gets back their investments. So the idea here is to partner with the private sector because on our own, even in terms, if you look at our 2.1 trillion budget, we still have a gap. So and then we have other priority sectors that require to be financed. So the idea is, and what I've seen happening, and which is correct, the idea is to try and partner with the investors, but at the same time ensure that we have a framework that will be attractive to these investors so that they can put in their money. Yeah.
Rarely have we had local banks being able to put up the kinds of capital we're talking here. Where has been the disconnect, and how do we grow them to be able to start catalyzing such projects? I, of course, know that the Standard Bank has come in through CFC Stanbic and can then access funds at a global level. Other players are trying to do the same, but how do we sort of drive this process forward?
Yeah, well, I think firstly the issue has been a lot of these projects are huge. The amount of capital outlay required, I mean, is a lot. But I would expect banks now with the new Banking Act regulations and the capping of interest rates to try and diversify and look at some of these projects. And the reason why probably a lot of our local banks have not put in a lot of their funds in this project is because they're long-term. So the investment will take probably another 10, 15 years before they start getting back the earnings.
Yes.
But our own interest rates in the local market have been very high and attractive. So you rather put your money in giving unsecured loans and funding local projects as opposed to partnering for this project. But what we're going to see now is that a lot of the banks are going to diversify, not only put their money in government bonds, but they're also going to put their money in some of these projects, like you've given an example, CFC and Standard Chartered Bank. So we're going to see a lot of this coming in because obviously they have to survive. But we've seen a lot of the foreign huge banks partnering with the investors because probably they have security from wherever they're coming from. Let's say if they're coming from the UK, and a lot of the investors who are coming in, they've done a lot of like the solar project they've done in many other countries. So they already have sufficient security, capacity, and they've demonstrated that they can deliver. So that financing has been coming from those other offshore entities.
And let's talk a bit about the fact that although we continue to be energy deficient and infrastructure deficient, it is mostly a matter of national savings. The fact that the mismatch in tenure of the funds that you're talking about, using short-term funds to finance long-term projects, is because not a lot of Kenyans are saving in terms of retirement, putting life policies, that sort of thing. We as Kenyans save very little for the long term. How do we start to catalyze these sorts of savings so we start to say that the likes of NSSF and the fund managers can be able to start investing in such projects over periods of 30 years or more?
Yeah. When it comes to personal savings, I think the issue has to be in terms of there has to be firstly government incentives.
Yes.
If you have, for example, a good tax mechanism that will allow you, for example, if you are, let's say even a mortgage probably could be a form of a saving or an investment. So that if you put your money in a mortgage, as an example, then the current tax relief that we are getting, now it has increased from 150,000 to 300 per annum. Probably it should go to as high as $1 million per annum. So that you get a saving, a tax relief on the amount that is deducted to go into your sort of mortgage. With that, it has a ripple effect. We create employment in that real estate sector. At the same time, we have more people in sort of saving and sort of pumping into the economy as opposed to spending borrowing from outside and actually spending. The other issue then also is the interest rate, but of course that government has sorted for now. We hope so. That now the rates have been higher, so you'll find even if someone has borrowed some money, they are more preoccupied with paying it as quickly as possible. And even if they get some returns, the returns they get in the investments are not sufficient, even enough, to cover on the payments that they're making. So I think first of all is also thirdly is the culture of saving. We have to inculcate it amongst ourselves that really we need to save.
Yes.
Maybe a fourth area to look at also is the issue of if you look at the NSSF, the amounts that we're contributing per month. Over the years, I mean, they've been very little and not really sufficient.
Yes.
Recently, they increased the capping. I would expect to see that kind of trend, that you are encouraged to put in more into NSSF. And NSSF is also required, and they sign performance contracts, that if they're receiving money from Kenyans, then they have to demonstrate that, let's say they receive 10 billion this year, next year they would work hard to make sure that it is 15 billion. So those are some of the initiatives that then we can look at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting conversation right there. And of course, the fact that your firm is going to hold a big event in the coming days just to showcase what you can do for this economy, right?
Yeah, yeah. Our firm is, Rodland Partner is officially launching in the Kenyan East African market.
Yes.
Tomorrow. We're already in South Africa and Nigeria.
Okay.
Yes.
So
you'll also receive our invite for the event.
Okay, and that definitely would be one to attend and hear what at the global level you have been able to achieve. Indeed, Mr. George Maina, tax partner at Rodland Partners, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. Now, moving on, Kenyan demand for local